customers and other landforms. So GPS, and you can see that GPS involves lots of different satellites circling the globe. So what is GPS? It is a global positioning system which is owned by the United States government, and it provides users with positioning, navigation, and timing services. This system consists of 3 segments. So it's made up of 3 segments: space segment, control segment, and user segment. It is developed, maintained, and operated by the United States Air Force, and which a lot of people don't know, that the Air Force also has space operations. So the space segments are the satellites themselves, or the satellite signals. The control segment are the satellite themselves and the navigation data, and then the user segment is the GPS receivers that triangulate time and three-dimensional positions. So the thing that we're most familiar with as the receiver would be our cell phones. The history of GPS, which was tracked by Sputnik, was to track Sputnik in the 1950s, which is a Russian satellite, which is the first man-made object to be launched into space. It used radio signals to track Sputnik, so it tracked Sputnik where it had been and where it was going. Sputnik would put these radio signals out, go beep, 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 and they used that to track Sputnik. In the 1960s, the United States Navy used GPS to track submarines by using 6 satellites to pinpoint submarine location. In the 1970s, the United States Defense Department launched 6 more satellites into space from 1978 to 1993 for 24-hour tracking. GPS is a space-based radio navigation system owned by the United States government, and is maintained by the United States Air Force. There's 2 types of GPS systems. The first one is standard positioning system, and the second one is precise positioning systems. PPS, which is used by the military, governments in the United States and American allies, and SPS is used by the general public, which is one we're most familiar with, it when we use one on phones and other location tracking devices. For personal uses, we use it for running or health reasons. We use it for traveling. We use it for cell phone tracking, because when we use our cell phones, it pings off radio towers, and we use GPS to figure out which cell phone towers are the closest. For professional services, we use them for emergency services, because they use our cell phones to find out where we are to send emergency personnel. Business development use GPS to figure out where's the best location for their businesses. We also use them for virtual tours, which we'll talk about later on. Industry and agriculture, where the transportation industry uses GPS very heavily to track where the trucks are and how fast will materials get to their destination. Agriculture uses GPS very often, more so now than ever before, for drone tractors and to monitor the health of crops or other things that they're growing. Education uses of GPS, so we can use them for virtual tours. Smithsonian and other historical institutions will use virtual tours that students can utilize. Virtual exploration, so we can use this to see other places that we might not ever see in person, such as the Egyptian pyramids. Google Earth is probably one of the most extensively used platforms that we use for GPS, and like I said, we can explore the globe. So we can not only explore man-made places, but we can also explore natural places. Other common uses of GIS, like I said, the most common use is GPS. The most common platform to use is Google Earth, as it is the most commonly formed platform, and it uses satellites and drivers for Google Street View. We can see cities, towns, and explore terrains and conduct virtual flyovers. I've had a student that used it to drive from Camden to Little Rock virtually, um, and he learned quite a bit from that. He used 3D landscapes, skylines, and explore historical sites. So a student can explore historic Gettysburg, and then or the beaches of Normandy. You can create your own 3D model using SketchUp, and this is used for history mostly from what I've seen in the study. I've never personally used it, but it'd be interesting to see how it is used. So here are some examples of how we use GPS. Uh, so the one that looks like it's a cell phone here, we use that for walking or biking. Um, and then the one that's on the other side, it looks like a long track on a highway. We use that to determine what is the quickest route to a destination that we're trying to get to. Geographic information system, so you can see behind the arrow we have the real world map, so we look like we have some woods, a river that splits in the middle, and then we have a city. And then in front of the arrow we have different types of maps. So we have real world imagery, elevations, transportation, boundaries, um, water features, surveys, and other pieces of data that you can input. And then in front of that, we have customer information, streets, parcels, elevation, land usage, and then under that is the real world. So these are a lot of things that can be used to kind of play with and see how various variables interact with each other. So what is GIS? Well, it is a framework. It is a framework rooted in the geography because it is a geospatial system. It uses several layers of information and visualizations of maps and 3D images. It brings all this information using data and spatial location and develops a deeper insight into developing of patterns and relationships of various variables. GIS utilizes databases, maps, programming, geography, mathematics, computer design, and computer science. GPS and GIS actually uses this. So this lends itself to be open to other uses um, in other disciplines, because this is not just unique to geography. This is going to computer science, other sciences, biology, where you can track biological patterns and things of that nature too. So, and natural patterns. The history of GIS, first utilized by John Snow in 1854 to track cholera outbreak in London. He used maps of roads and water lines and property lines to track the disease. In the 1950s, it was used to create transportation routes and to develop community plans. From the 1960s to the 1980s, GIS utilized map graphics, printers, data storage, and recorded coordinates. Roger Tomlinson is considered the father of modern GIS. He used his tools to map Canada. The United States Census Bureau saw that and wanted to incorporate it into their technology. And with census data, you can look at poverty rates, track movements, people movements. Um, you can track crime rates. There's lots of different things that you can track. In the 1960s and 70s, from the 1970s to 1990s, Harvard Laboratory Computer Graphics developed Odyssey GIS, which became the platform for ArcGIS, which is the most widely used form of GIS out there. In the 1990s to 2010, GIS was brought into the classroom and for and was used for making government decisions and for companies. For 2010 to the present, GIS, the amount of data has become so large you have to measure it in terabytes. And it also become widely available to the public online and can be utilized for many different needs, and it is available for free on many open sources. Use of GIS, so we have professional and personal use. So professional use, planner will use it to plot out where new highway construction should go, or where highway maintenance dollars should be spent. It can be used for public transportation. So where would be the best places to place bus stops and where to place bus routes. You can use it for voting patterns to track it to see how people vote. For personal uses, people use it to develop trails, bike paths, and other nature trails. So we have various different personal uses for it. You can see where if you just like to play around with it, you can just see how various pieces of information, how people affect various pieces of information or other variables within the environment. Educational usage, you can use it to make maps or trails. You can use it in the classroom to create electoral districts, like legislative districts. You can find out where people live, how they live, why they live there, how does geography affect where they live. It's easily shareable. It's easy to research. Students can share and talk about these relationships between various points of data. And it's not only in geography, and it's not only in politics, but you can also use it in the biology class. You can also use it in the sociology class. There's a lot of different classes you can use this in. It helps to create an ethnographic work, and it produces a better representation of scopes of communities and people, because when you see things in 3D images on a map, it becomes more real. You can see it in a bigger picture of how things affect each other. And the good thing about this is that it crosses over many disciplines. There's also lots of maps that are online and they are free to use. They are also easy to use because you don't use a lot of jargon that might confuse people. An example of GIS use, again, we have here looks like a redistricting map. I've used redistricting applications of GIS to draw legislative districts in Arkansas, to share with one of the commissions that the state of Arkansas uses to draw legislative districts. And I've also used this as a planner to plot out where new construction or maintenance construction should go. If you want to look up more information, here's the bibliography that I used, and you can also use more of your own. This is the first page, and this is the second page of bibliography sources. These are some things that I've used to develop a history of GIS and GPS to deliver this content to you. Well, I hope you have a good day, and thank you for your time.